Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sentsuthung Odyuo. I am a research scholar from the Department of Sociology and Social Work, ICSWS-TOHSD2022 University. I take this time as an immense pleasure and a privilege to present a paper on this international conference. My paper will highlight on gender studies, specifically women's participation in politics. This subject has been close to my heart a long time back. I've been fascinated as to why women do not have enough privilege to participate as well as be represented in politics. So keeping that in mind, today I will be presenting a paper on women in politics, revisiting the status of women's participation in politics in the state of Nagaland. So to begin with, if we talk about democracy, the very base of democracy is giving privileges and opportunities to each citizen, be it male or female, to participate in politics. That is a very basic human rights. But if we see the situation that is revolving around our society, we see that hardly women come up as an ardent participants in politics. So when we talk about representation, the very word representation itself do not justify as to why women do not have enough number to be represented. The very word representative itself is a question when women do not participate enough. Only when women participate, we can say that women are represented enough, but the very base that women could not even able to participate in politics, it's a huge question. A question where when they are not even able to participate, why talk about representation? So with this, I would like to highlight how politics as an electoral institution has paved a way for young as well as older individuals to participate in politics. It is an institution, that is what I call it, because electoral politics is where it gives privilege to a person attending the age of 18 to participate as a voting individual to vote or cast their vote or as a candidate in politics. It is an institution where, irrespective of an identity, one can participate provided he or she meet the criteria. But we have seen that since inception, since the past centuries, there has been a bias in politics. Politics is usually seen as a tool or a game for a man. When a woman tries to intervene or participate in politics, they are seen someone as not womanly enough or someone who tries to provoke the fraternity of men. And due to that reason, women do not take initiative to participate in politics. Also, we see that in a very patriarchal rooted society like India, except for some few women, women do not gather enough strength or courage enough to participate in politics. Based on various literature, we see that women participating in politics are those having an ancestral or family participating in politics, or having affiliation from generation of politics, or someone who is well-to-do or wealthy or holding a high position in society. Other than that, we see that a general woman or a housewife do not get a chance or even to talk about participating in politics. From the words of Kumari and Kitwa in 1998, the problem of women in politics is located at different levels of history, tradition, patriarchal political structure, and the way democracy works in this country. All political parties discriminate against women, whether it is in holding high posts with a party or even in issuing of tickets in election, and women find the political environment not conducive to their participation in politics. So in reference to the Naga women, as is contextualized in my study, Naga women is traditionally considered as a society that gives equal respect to both men and women. There's been substantial studies from Naga scholars or outside the Naga community where They've done an intensive study of Naga women, how they portray Naga women as very independent, or a society where it gives equal opportunity to women and men as well. According to Shimre, he states that in the casteless Naga society, women have traditionally enjoyed a high social position with a pivotal role in both family and community affairs. Through this word, Naga society are considered as a society that do not practice any caste. Naga women are generally, or we say 99% are Christian. And being an ardent believer of Christian, they do not practice in caste. Otherwise, there is a thin line when we portray a Christian society not practicing caste. There are different unwanted or negative factors that prevalent in the society. That includes tribalism, patriarchy, and the society and the church preaching of women that are substantiated, or women are seen as someone that should live under a woman, under a man, which is the household of a family. And when it comes to development in socioeconomic status, Housing says that higher level of socioeconomic and educational development that accompanied modernization do not necessarily translate into greater democratic participation of women and gender justice in Nagaland. Based on the word that Housing has said, Nagaland, the women in Nagaland has been considered as someone having a high literacy rate. They are given equal opportunity as men to go to schools and be whatever they want in the society. They are not thwarted or stopped to pursue education to any level, however they want. But that do not necessarily mean that this high literacy justifies women's participation in public space. From the word of Masuti, he said, despite a high female literacy rate and an active women rights movement, the struggle for political empowerment in Nagaland is only just beginning. And to justify a little on the Naga electoral politics, since inception, male domination has been prevailing in the context of politics in Nagaland. The participation and representation of women in politics are imperceptible. We see that women constitute almost half of the total electorate of around 2 million voters. This is from the census of 2011, with male voters of 1.5 lakhs and with women 954,000. It can be noted that Nagaland has so far conducted 13 elections since its statehood, 1964 to 2018. So far, only 19 women candidates. We see women representing in electoral politics, but for them to even contest in election has been a problem. For only a 19 for 13 election, it's a saddening and a very shock of how women do not participate in politics. And it can be also noted that not a single elected representative in state legislative assembly since statehood. So it's very disheartening to note that Nagaland is the only state in India that do not have a single woman representative in state legislative assembly. Like I've earlier mentioned, those 19 women candidates, none of them have won. And it became the only state and the union territories in India not having a single candidate. And Nagaland will be having its 14th election next year. So with this contribution, with this discourse on women participation in politics and a suggestive measure, there is a hope that women will come, at least a single woman will pave way in winning an election. And also, it can be noted that in many of the elections, women have outnumbered the male voters. In 8 out of 13 assembly election, women voted higher than men. So this can also be justified how voting alone do not necessarily justify having them elected in politics. If we see the wave of feminism, how it initially started, it was their fervent fight to be given an opportunity or adult franchise to vote. So this has been a long fight for women, but in several ways we see that women had the autonomy and they were given in most of the states the right to vote. But the right to vote in the Naga context is not a problem for now. They've been outnumbering women, as I earlier mentioned, 8 out of 13, they've been outnumbering men to vote. So there's a question, are the women voting for their individual rights? Do they have the decision in voting voting the person? Or is it been calculated, or is it been being triggered or being forced by some individuals or family members to vote? So this remains a very big question and a study that can be put forward in the future. And so far, the only woman representative in parliament, Rano M. Shaiza, she won an election in the Lok Sabha in 1977. So she has only been the only woman that have outshined men and that have outstood politics in Nagaland. So to assess the problem and identifying way forward, there is a need to critically analyze the fundamental components contributing to the absence of women representation in politics. There is a need to recognize political participation by assessing the individual and social culture and contextual determinants of participation. And also there is a need to understand the level of political awareness among the participants. Participants here are referred to both men and women by factors such as age, education, employment status, place of residence, and their marital status. So that with all these factors, it will help us to assess the problem. And there is also a need to address the different types of challenges Naga women experience during contesting elections. So maybe in the past, those women contesting an election, they might not have a situation that might not have which might have unintentionally paved way for the other women to see as a stepping stone for them to contest for election. So it is very important that we need to assess those former politicians and come to terms to work upon it and all of those challenges. And there is also a need to establish a comparative study of the Naga society participation in politics from the other states. So it's indeed very true that it's very contextual. The context of women in Naga cannot be compared to the other women in different states or region. However, it is important that the comparison to other region or state that have high women winning candidate in election will give an idea of how women can also assist and adapt or build a framework where they will be able to adapt and be able to put forth practically. And here are some of the suggestive measures that I will want to put forward in my paper. There should be a culturally and traditionally responsive measure in policies. So if we see the Constitution of India, the Article 371A, it protects and gives measures and protection to Nagaland state. It gives power to the state of Nagaland that no laws, irrespective of laws that are not coherent or suitable to the state of Nagaland, should not be imposed. And due to this very reason, giving women rights to power will have a substantial disintegration to the people of the Nagas. Generally, the Naga people see women as a housekeeper or a woman as someone who should not involve much in the public sphere. And that is one reason the general public think that women should not participate in politics. So determining the situation where how responsive are the policies and schemes or provisions, it should be navigated in such a way that it will adhere to the traditional and cultural beliefs of the people of Nagaland. There should be an implementation of reservation both in the village here. The village refers to the village council. In Nagaland, we still call it village council. We don't have panchayat level, but it is very much same and equivalent. Here in the root cause, in the local level, we see that there is also a problem in the village level as well. Women, even though the Constitution of India gives reservation in the panchayat level, there it is only in the book. The Nagaland government in the village level or in the state level where the election in the village takes place do not justify reservation. Women do not even have chance to participate in the village level. So it is important that could this be the reason why they're not able to come out in the state level. So it is very important that we contextualize both the village and level, state level, and both in level village and state level, reservation should be given. And there should be an inclusivity in the party politics. Studies suggest that in the previous elections, the major parties such as the BJP or NPF, Nagaland People Front, they hesitate to give party politics to the women. And this reason could be such that because women are not going to win, that presumption put forth in their mind that if women are not going to win, why waste the ticket? So there is this one argument that women should not be given a party politics that are prominent in the state level or international level. So this should be rejected, and women should be given politics, a party politics. And Nagaland as a Christian society, as I've earlier mentioned, the church plays a very vital role. So strengthening the church leader, the civil societies and students' organization will pave way for women's participation in politics. And finally, we should bridge the gap between private and public sphere. A lot of people say that women have an inherent private sphere that give them opportunity to be independent. A lot of studies suggest that Naga women, as far as their private sphere is concerned, they have very strong autonomy. They are part and parcel of the decision making in the family. However, the private sphere is not translated into public sphere. The private sphere remains only at home. However, we should bridge this gap. That independence that they have at home should also be navigated towards the public space. Only when both these are connected, women will be able to triumph and will be able to come out as a superior and as someone who can really put forth and give a way for the women to participate in public space, especially concerning women in politics. So with this, I will conclude my paper presentation, and thanks for listening to me.